Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's Substack Live at the Sustainable Media Center. My name is Emma Lemke, and I serve as the Director of Gen Z Advocacy at SMC. I'm joined here with the Executive Director, Steve, and I'm so honored to be joined in intergenerational dialogue with two outstanding SMC community members, Tony Roberts and Trisha Prabhu. A little bit more about today's conversation list. So, Trisha is a 26-year-old global responsible technology advocate. Trisha is the inventor of Rethink, a patented anti-cyberbullying technology, and the founder and CEO of Rethink Citizens, a youth-led nonprofit empowering today's young people to create the digital world that they deserve. Trisha is currently a JD MBA degree candidate at Yale Law School and at Stanford Graduate Business School, where she is a Knight Hennessy Scholar. So, Trisha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
In addition to Trisha, we have, and we're so thankful to be in conversation with Tony Roberts. Tony is a social media parent survivor and advocate for a safer, healthier digital space after the loss of his daughter, England. Tony will talk more in discussion about his advocacy, but we just want to extend our deepest gratitude for you for jumping into today's conversation for all the work that you do, Tony.
Thank you all for being here. Thanks for having me.
Course. So for today's discussion, there is a lot that I want to discuss. But first, we usually begin these intergenerational dialogues by hearing from both of you about your work beyond just the cookie cutter intros that I gave. So I want each of you to let listeners in a bit more about your career and advocacy trajectories. So I'm going to pass the baton to Steve to kind of get us started.
So I was thinking about both of you, knowing we were going to talk today, and I was thinking about advocacy and the fact that there are many issues that people choose to join. Environment, animal rights, the things where you make a personal. This is not one of those. You find yourself in a position where you become part of it because of things that you and your family ended up dealing with. And I think that changes emotionally the depth of the work that you both do, but also the complexity of it. And in the last 2 years, I've spent a lot of time with parents, and this issue has gone from being something people wouldn't talk about in polite conversation to something every single parent of a teenager wants to talk to me about. And I credit you, Tony, and Brandy, with the decision to go through a terrible thing and then decide to be an advocate as important for other parents. But I'm curious. We won't go retell the England story because you've told it publicly a lot. I will say to listeners and viewers, if you haven't Googled Tony and heard the story, it's worth hearing. Before your loss, did you and Brandy know that social media was impacting your family?
No, sir, not at all. What we saw in England in social media is what probably the typical parent sees. She was showing us beautiful homes, homes with swimming pools, that places to visit, vacations, um, dancing. She loved to do her nails and do her hair, young teenage girl. So these things inspired her. So that's what she showed us. That's what we saw.
I uh, I remember seeing you on stage in New York. This has to be now 2 years ago. And one of the things I think that's changing, and that again, that I think you and your wife are part of the change, is it's easy to sit outside this issue. And if it's not happening to you, to say, well, that must be a family thing, or there must be something else. And until I met both of you and just realized what amazing, loving, caring people you were, um, I think parents now understand it could happen to anyone.
You know, I'll be honest with you guys, even sitting here discussing it is hard because even though we're around parents who unfortunately have suffered what we have suffered, loss, some have their children still here and they wonder every day what's next. And that's very unfortunate also. That's got to be hard. It's going on 6 years now, and we never ever thought what the baby of the family who is with you every single day, that the love, the care, and this may not mean much to other folks, but when you got the baby in the house and you're dad and you're me, and you want to just spoil and love and do the things that you see the excitement and the glow and the love in her eyes. And then you get hit with this and you don't know how it happened. You don't know what happened. And you saw some things and you spoke to her friends afterwards, but you still didn't know this was a thing until Frances Haugen bravely spoke up a year after England's death. And then dad goes back and said, well, you remember, I remember seeing this on her phone. And then you started listening to the experts. And then you remember a picture on her phone of her cutting herself. And that was some of the signs that the experts spoke about nationally. And I was like, honestly, I still wonder today, how is this even a thing? But as we get more educated, we're finding out more.
We're going to talk about some of the things we learned in the Los Angeles court case in a minute, but Trisha, I want to just go to you. Um, so for you, the issue was bullying. Um, where did your parent, at what point did you share with your parents what was going on, and at what point did they get involved, or essentially did, to what extent were you able to bring your parents into the issue?
I really struggled to bring my parents into the issue, and I think that's something I really like to put out there and emphasize. And it's not just me. The statistics are pretty clear that, most victims of bullying and cyberbullying, don't report what they're experiencing to a parent because you might feel ashamed. I always felt, being the daughter of two immigrant parents who worked so hard to give me everything, being their only child, I felt a sense of shame of telling my parents, no one likes me. People don't like me at school. People are making fun of me. I, in the sixth grade, used to sit and have lunch with my teachers very, very frequently in the faculty lounge because I didn't really have anyone to sit with in the lunchroom, but it just felt so much shame to admit that to, my parents. And for a lot of other kids, some worry, I'm going to get in trouble, especially if maybe they made a decision that has then kind of led down a rabbit hole to a tough situation. We see that in like sextortion cases, right, or similar cases. So I think it's incredibly important to emphasize because it gets back to exactly what you were saying, Steve, which is so many parents think, oh, that would never happen to me, or oh, I would know about it. It would be so, it would be so clear. And it's just not true. So many young people don't say anything. Um, the other thing I'll say is just to build off of what Tony was saying just now, I think in all of my travel that I've been doing over the last year and a half, I think that's the thing that's been most striking to me as an advocate is like literally wherever I go, even some of the most rural towns in America, like 3,000 people, you can find a parent whose child has either they are a parent survivor or their child has experienced intense, extreme harm online, and the whole family is suffering with the consequences. So I think, as I've gotten older, the beauty of it is now we're having more of a societal conversation. And so it's easier to see that this is a pattern, right? And that is thanks to the advocacy of incredible folks like Tony. But when I was a kid, like the term cyberbullying was not even in the vernacular. So it's certainly not something my parents were very attuned to. And then I, felt really ashamed to admit to them that, I was kind of on the lowest rung, so to speak, or so I felt at that age.
I find at least once a week, I'm talking to a parent and I recommend to them that they see the multi-part episodes on Netflix Adolescence.
Mm,
And they won't often don't get through all 4 hours of it. They'll get through like hour two and a half, and then they'll call me and say, I just had no idea.
yeah,
Um, and I had somebody say to me, well, should I watch it with my daughter? I said, no, you should watch it yourself. Like you should experience it without having to be looking over or feeling uncomfortable. But to me, that 4 hour series it's accessible. It's I'm going to say entertaining, but I don't really mean it's engaging, and then it's heartbreaking.
yeah,
And until people see what it's like to be that age in the digital world, there's a temptation to go, well, I had a hard time in high school, and
Right.
high school's always hard, and kids are always hard on each other. Not the same thing. Not
Yeah,
the same thing. All right,
not
Emma,
even close.
I know you've got questions.
Well, I think I want to kind of go back and talk about, what work is being done and where advocacy is happening. So I know that both of you are kind of at the hot center of digital advocacy efforts to make the internet and social media just a safer place for children to live in. So I have to ask, what are you both doing and or seeing, whether that's through courts, legislatures, movements, classrooms, etc., that are being done to hold big tech accountable? What's working and what do you think that we need to be doing a little differently? So I'm going to start with you, Tony, to hear your thoughts on kind of what advocacy you're seeing, and then we'll go to you, Tricia.
Well, what I'm seeing is a lot of strong parents that are taking our stories to grief and putting it out there. We have waited for big tech to do the right thing, but they will not. I think recently Meta released some other stuff that they put out there this week, but we know that those functions won't work and won't serve the purpose, Trish, of what the parents and the children really need. Unfortunately, our biggest battle is legislation. Um, we're having a tough time, even though COSA a couple of years ago, a couple of summers ago, passed 91-3. Both parties have honestly failed to protect children the way they need to be. So I think right now we currently look at Republican Party has the House, the Senate. It's both sides. When
Mhm.
you still have three people that are debating to protect children, one of the three helped write the Communications Decency Act 30 years ago, who voted against COSA.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm thinking June 23rd, or maybe the 22nd, they are inviting the CEOs back up to Capitol Hill. Now that date may change, but we will be there for Social Media Victims Remembrance Day on the 23rd, honoring our lost children. But I'll say this: how do you get until it knocks on your door, like you were saying earlier, Steve and Trish, until it knocks on possibly one of the senators, congressional leaders' doors, where it hits home? Maybe that's the only thing that will get them to truly understand, even though they know from the evidence in court, they know from the internal documents, discovery, they know what's out there, but
Mhm.
something is preventing COSA as well as other meaningful bills to become law and to hold the big tech companies accountable.
Absolutely. What about you, Tricia? What are you seeing from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen a lot of what Tony is describing. I'm a JD candidate, so I kind of sit in the legal world, and I also, work with and collaborate with so many incredible parent survivors and advocates. And I think exactly what Tony said. I mean, this is a bipartisan issue, and it's also been a bipartisan failure that it is 2026, 6 years after we had the reveal of the fact that, these big tech companies not only were causing harm, but knew they were causing harm and continued to do it because it was profitable.
Mhm.
It's been 6 years and we're sitting on our hands waiting for, I don't know. I mean, the question I always ask, because you go to Social Media Victims Remembrance Day on June 23rd and you see more pictures of young people every year. And so the question I always ask is like, how many more young people have to lose their life to where, our representatives, our senators who are there to serve us as constituents, serve society, serve our well-being, are going to wake up and say, okay, we're going to do something. So I
Mhm.
think there has been kind of a crisis of leadership at the federal level. What has been exciting to me is at the state level, we've seen a lot more activity, and I think that has been really promising on the AI front. A lot of interesting statutes being passed. States like New York, for instance, big youth focus, and very exciting too that it's been kind of a bipartisan consensus and pushback, against any type of preemption at the federal level, because people understand that this is a crucial issue, that young people's lives are on the line, and that we can't afford to make the same mistakes that we did with Web 2.0 as we kind of enter the AI age. So I think that has been really, really promising. And I'm hopeful that that momentum paired with, kind of the incredible advocacy that folks like Tony are leading is going to hopefully produce the change we want at the federal level, in the form of COSA or another bill. So I think that's one thing I've been seeing. Another thing I'll highlight from my work with Rethink Citizens, we've been seeing a lot of young people who are stepping up and saying no more, right? I think sometimes there's a characterization of this dialogue as, oh, it's parents and educators, it's only parents and educators, maybe some lawmakers. Young people are fed up and done
Hmm.
with the digital status quo, right? We know it's bad for us. We know it's, extractive and exploitative. We know it's addicting us. And so many youth I talk to are like, I want to get off of TikTok, but I can't, right? Like they know they see they're using it not because they love it, they're using it because they literally can't get off of it. So to be able to work with young people as I do at my nonprofit who have ideas to make the internet better and help them turn those ideas into campaigns or projects or solutions, design changes has been really exciting and gratifying because to me, it's really shown what I think is going to be core for this movement moving forward, which is we have a new generation that is refusing to accept anything less than safe, healthy, in our interest, designed with young people in mind. And so I'm hopeful that that innovation and everything they're creating is going to make change for us, but also that it's going to produce some of the cultural change that we need, right? To say this is the floor. The floor is not hundreds of young people dying and big tech making billions in profits. The floor is this is safe for young people or we're not doing it. And I think
Hmm.
that's where a lot of youth are today.
So, Tony, I was literally thinking of you yesterday, because I was seeing the pushback from Meta on we won the case in Los Angeles, and that was an amazing moment. And the shift from Section 230 to product liability as a novel approach was now that we are sitting here with that evidence in our hand, incredibly brilliant, and the discovery process incredibly brilliant. But having spent some time, Emma and I and the SMC team, thinking about where this takes us, we go back and spend efforts on looking at smoking. And we realize that the strategy of these big companies is kind of a playbook that's public. It's run the clock. And they came out yesterday and they want to go back to Section 230 as an objection. And they want to go back to the First Amendment as an objection. And I literally wanted to reach through the internet and give you a hug and just say, you know, please don't get tired, because that's their strategy is to get us tired. And, one of the things that I worry about is these big companies have, rooms full of lawyers, buildings full of lawyers, and when one gets tired or quits, they just replace them with another one. But there's only one Tony, there's only one Brandy, there's only one Steve and Emma and Trisha. I like, and I think the intergenerational piece of this community is what makes that stronger. To your point, Trisha, it's like Tony needs to have big communities of young activists around him to feel that energy and know that he's working for them and that they're working for him. Tony, did the pushback from Meta against the case, like, did it make you just wipe your brow and be like, really? Or like, did you expect that?
Yes, sir. And we expected it because they initially said that they were going to appeal, and I was assuming that what they did yesterday was part of the appeal process. Um, I go back, Steve, and I thank you for and Emma and Trish all and all the love that's surrounding us. That is back to what you said is what keeps Brandy and I and so many other parents going. Is actually the love of our fellow human beings and the love of children, especially that, like you said, Trish, earlier, children don't know what they're feeling is not normal. And
Yeah.
so we all have to step up and protect them and to love them and show them differently. The courts, sitting there and looking back in March at even Mark Zuckerberg testifying and Adam Mosseri, and you just wonder where the hearts and minds of individuals are. Is money that important? I, as a parent, I I'll fight until my last breath to protect children. I'll be honest and tell you. So nothing will distract me. Nothing will distract Brandy until I'm called to England. I will be here. Brandy will be here to help whomever needs the help. And if it's to sit amongst individuals that honestly I don't really care for their character, I'll do that also. But unfortunately, there are some of the same ones that can make a difference and get the laws passed that's needed to help protect other families from going through this lifelong journey of grief. So we're here. We will always be here. Uh, Turning that pain into a purpose is what we will do.
I wish I could say something to support that any more than I have, except it's just, you're beautiful people.
Well,
And
Steve, Emma, um, the love of individuals that's helping us, Trish, to be there for others. Couldn't ask for better individuals than Matthew Bergman, Laura, Glenn Draper, Social Media Victims Law Center, but also just the love of people that come up to you and
Mm.
say, hey, you're strong. They don't really maybe understand that as a parent sometimes that at 11 o'clock at night, you're not that strong.
I mean, one of the things that's hard is parents say to Emma and I all the time, well, what do we do? What should we do? Should we put the phone, and they have kind of a list of put the phone in a drawer or like, and a lot of what I end up sharing is like, just know that what you're up against, like, it's not your fault. Like, these are, the buildings full of PhD electrical engineers, developers who are tweaking the product to see what captures a young person. And, I was with a friend the other day who has a 13-year-old daughter who's going through a pretty tough time. And he said the only thing that she will do with her mom is go to Sephora. That's the only thing she'll do. And the idea that 13-year-olds are being told that they need skincare makeup when they're 13 and their face is beautiful and they do, I mean, and so I said to him, what does your wife do? He said, oh, she goes. Like, what's the choice? If that's the social experience that my daughter wants to have with my wife, we're going to go to Sephora. Um, and the Esther Dyson talks publicly about the underlying incentives and the fact that if you're a middle level developer at Meta and you're being told that your assignment is to increase engagement by 0.2%, you're not thinking about the young woman or the young boy on the other side of that. You're just tweaking the color of the button, or you're sending a little bit more videos. And um, I think individuals taking personal responsibility for that is important. And I mean, maybe it starts to happen at the company level, but I think it has to happen at the societal level.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, Steve. And I think too, what that example that you just shared illustrates is in some ways we need like a fundamental rethink of the business model, right? Because to the extent that the business model is, you know, we have to keep them hooked to make money, it in some ways can never be safe, right? Because it's always going to be, well, they should sleep. Oh, but if we keep them up, they're going to make money. Well, they should learn. Oh, but if we keep them distracted, we're going to make money. It's never going to be in the young person's interest. So I think, something that I'm very interested in and kind of hoping to explore through the MBA I'm starting this fall is like, what would it look like to take this kind of current digital business model that we've had and that we already see being replicated for AI, right? ChatGPT, ads. What does that mean? They're going to have to keep you on the AI product so that you keep watching the ads, right? So it's like hook, hook, hook. What would it look like for us to do something different? Because it's almost like we picked this one approach to, telling people that they were getting a free product when in fact we were the customer. We were the
We-
thing. We were paying with ourselves. We were paying with our attention. We were paying with our well-being. I think we need a fundamental rethink of this model. We, of course, need to strongly legislate around it. We need to create guardrails around it. But it also shouldn't be one of these things where for the developer and the company, it's like, maybe they do think to themselves, oh, well, as Frances Haugen showed us, right? People are saying, oh, this is probably gonna be bad for some of the young people, once we make this change. But then they're like, but we're gonna make ABC billion dollars, so we got to do it.
So
It-
there's a great big movie about Francis coming out in October, directed by Aaron Sorkin, with a laundry list
Oh,
of
yes, yes,
eight.
that's
Yeah,
right.
and I'm hopeful that that will wake up. I mean, parents of teenagers are all on board. I mean, 100% of the parents who have
Totally.
teenagers, you say, this is what I do, and they say, how can I help? But for, and then there's another community of grandparents that also are
Mhm.
concerned about teenage, but like I'd like it to be a society. I'd like that film to be the galvanizing moment where people wake up and go, wait, this is wrong. And Frances gets the visibility that she deserves, and her story becomes, you know, a story that people can tell each other. My
Yes,
fingers are crossed. Um,
likewise.
Emma, what are we missing?
I think that that's it. I think the one last very brief question that I have for both of you before we wrap up is just, we've talked a lot about movements and efforts that are very promising, but I want to know what is one thing, a person, a place, a thing, a movement, a group that's just giving you hope right now, that's lighting your fire, that's making you excited to continue doing the advocacy that you're doing. I'll start with you, Tony, and then we'll go to Trisha.
Well, Parents Rise. I sit on the board also with um, nine other parents, which includes Brandy. And the love, the dedication, and the group is very young, just starting, so still trying to figure out things. But the mission, the core mission, and the support we have from folks like you guys, uh, and being educated every single day, every article, every piece of legislation that we could read, everybody that we can meet with. And sometimes it's tough, but we have seen where folks have changed their mind. Those folks that can make the right decision once they hear England's story or Annalise' story and sit with us to realize that this is an issue. We've seen hearts change. And so there's progress that's being made, maybe not as quick as we would like it, but um, I think Trish, you said it, 5 years ago, a couple of months ago, I did a speech on Capitol Hill outside, and I called out individuals that got pretty upset. But my take of it is they could have pulled the licenses once Francis Haugen exposed the truth in 2021, and said to the companies, you're not operating anymore because we've had you up here for the last 10 years and you've lied to us for 10 years and we've lost children. But now it's 6 years later and we're still doing the same thing. And I think as parents, Emma, we get tired of another bill being
Mhm.
created when there is a bill that passed 91 to 3 with has a duty of care that would maybe not solve, but would mitigate some of the issues that we're having. But every time we look up as advocates, as parents, um, there's another bill being thrown at us and being negotiated, and it prolongs what really needs to happen, and that's accountability.
Mhm. What about you, Trisha? What gives you hope?
Yeah, that's so well said. I mean, I think first I'll say I have two answers. First, I'll say people like Tony give me hope because of
Yeah.
the way that they have taken their grief and one of the worst moments you can have in life and leveraged it to protect so many young people, including one day, hopefully my children, right? Like that is something that sits really deeply within me. I'm so grateful for it. So I think that really inspires me. But I'll also say, I think the person I think of is kind of more of a persona in my head when I think of the person who inspires me. It is the person who takes a little bit of time out of their day, even if they're not a social media reform advocate, they haven't necessarily been personally impacted. But I meet these people, whether they're educators who see young people in the classroom, on the phones, whatever it is, they take a little bit of time out of their day to try and push things in the right direction. If we all did that, we would be so much more powerful than, yes, even some of the most valuable, powerful companies in the world. And so whenever I meet people, they may not have a personal connection, but they're a teacher. I met someone recently who was a special education teacher and was talking about the experiences she had seen young people using devices. It wasn't in her contract to make people put their phones away. It wasn't in her contract to talk about online safety, but she chose to do that. And I think those little actions and those little moments of resistance that we see everyday people pushing for, that is like the broader kind of societal change that you said, Steve, right? That we need to see. And I think the broader push that is going to get us to, as I often say, the digital world young people deserve. So that's really my call to action, right? If you're watching this and you're in the movement, thank you for everything you're doing. If you're watching this and you're not, you still have a role to play, right? I advocate with Kristen Bride, who's another amazing parent survivor. And she often says, people will come up to her and say, I'm so sorry, or I feel so bad. And she says, well, don't just feel bad, do something, right? I mean, I appreciate the sympathy. I appreciate you feeling bad, but like now is the time for action. We've gotten to the awareness stage. Now is the time for action. So I'm inspired by anyone who chooses to take action.
Well, we all are inspired by both of you and your work. And we just want to thank you both for coming on and sharing your insights with us today. And as always, to everyone who's listening, we look forward to being in continued conversation with you and the SMC community, and we will speak with you again next week. So thank you both for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.